Welcome, DoorGrow property managers, to the DoorGrow Show. If you are a property management entrepreneur that wants to add doors, make a difference, increase revenue, help others, impact lives, and you are interested in growing a business and life, and you're open to doing things a bit differently, then you are a DoorGrow property manager. DoorGrow property managers love the opportunities, daily variety, unique challenges, and freedom that property management brings. Many in real estate think you're crazy for doing it. You think they're crazy for not, because you realize that property management is the ultimate high trust gateway to real estate deals, relationships, and residual income. At DoorGrow, we are on a mission to transform property management business owners and their businesses. We want to transform the industry, eliminate the BS, build awareness, change perception, expand the market, and help the best property management entrepreneurs win. I'm your host, property management growth expert, Jason Hull, the founder and CEO of DoorGrow. Now, let's get into the show. So I have an awesome guest today. I actually joined his program just for kicks. This is Michael Sartain. Michael, welcome to the DoorGrow Show.
Hey, what's going on, man? Hey, I gotta be honest with you. 2 years ago, I didn't know what doors meant. And then I started hanging out with Justin Waller, and he's like, yeah, man, I have 300 doors. I was like, bro, what are you talking about? And then he's like, now he's got 400 doors. And I was like, oh, it's like all these different properties. And then my buddy Myron, he's got 17 homes that he owns up in Connecticut, he told me about. And I didn't understand how this whole thing worked. And then the property management side of it, like my company, we're buying properties because we want to use the depreciation. And then we're like, well, we need someone to keep, these places rented, blah, blah, blah. And then the property management side, I don't know that much about it. So that's why I was really excited to come on here and check this out.
Cool. Well, yeah. And I didn't know very much about like kind of maintaining a presence, looking cool, like actually looking cool on social media instead of just trying to look cool. And so I've learned some good things by being in your program. So let's get into a little bit of background about you for those that are like, who's this Michael guy? And maybe how you kind of got into entrepreneurism. And I think that'd be relevant to anybody listening.
So I'm originally from East Dallas. I grew up on the good side of the tracks and went to high school on the bad side of the tracks. And graduated from my high school, barely like did anything. It was not a very good experience. And I got into UT Austin because I was in the top 10% of my class. Went there 4 years, studied astronomy and business, and then got out of there. And then I ended up managing a nightclub for a couple of years, because MCI, WorldCom, and Enron had gone out of business. So if you know UT Austin, Enron was like a huge supply of jobs once you graduated from as a Longhorn. Once they go out of business, none of us can find jobs. I ended up working at a strip club for like several years as a DJ. And this is the first point in my life where I'm like, okay, there's something going on here. There's things that I've been taught growing up, but there's something different. Now, of course, I want to preface this. By no means am I saying that people who go to a strip club or people who work in a strip club are indicative of the median of society. They clearly are not. What I am saying, though, is that you can see the extremes in society when you go to places like that. And from those extremes, you can see overt reactions. One of the things that I do in my course is I teach how people can network, get invited where the cool kids sit. Like that phenomenon of where the cool guys are and the not cool guys, the hot club versus the not club, the club people don't want to go to, or the party everyone's trying to get into. What is it that causes that phenomenon of popularity and status? There has to be something that can explain it. And so what I've been trying to do for the last 15 years is use evolutionary studies in order to figure out a way in order to do that. And so a lot of times when you do that, you can see subcommunication between a man and a woman, and you don't really know what's going on. They have like the internal focus of what's going on. But when you see it in like a nightclub or a festival or someplace like that, you see very overt communication. And from that, you can learn a lot of cool stuff. It's like watching, crows, pick at a carcass versus watching a giant white tiger go kill a gazelle. Like that is overt examples of predation that you can see and be like, okay, this is how biology works. This is how natural selection works, etc. And I know for your audience, you're like, where the fuck's he going with all this? The reason why, so just to explain, I got fascinated. I did 7 years in the military. After 9/11, I joined and I flew a KC-135 as an instructor navigator. And then I did counterintelligence for about the last 2 years I was there. And then in that time period, I learned how a very structured business could work and like how accountability works. Accountability and leadership, I learned very much during that time period. But at that same time period, I was also going out a lot, and I was like very interested to me in like, what is it that caused certain men to be phenomenally good with women and get a lot of people to show up to an event, and then what caused other men to just not get it. And I also noticed that there was a very small group of men that got it, and then a very large group of men that didn't understand this concept whatsoever. So I became fascinated with that idea. 2011, I ended up retiring from the military, and I ended up moving to Las Vegas. And this is the first time when I started going out to some of these nightclubs and these venues here in Las Vegas. And I meet a lot of real estate agents. I meet a lot of accountants. I meet plastic surgeons, doctors. And it was very clear to me like that some of them got it and some of them didn't get it. I threw a real estate event recently where we took a blue heron home. And then we had a charity event for animals. And while we're there, I invited every single female influencer in the city to show up. Well, some of these girls already had their own properties. Some of them were interested in getting into real estate. But I just want you to imagine it was just like a regular real estate event that you have, except you're doing it for animal rescue. So now all these people who are in real estate, mortgage brokers, et cetera, property managers like yourself, they would show up to this beautiful 3-story house. It was catered. It was beautiful. And then every pretty girl in the city in Las Vegas who wasn't working that night showed up to this thing. So now you're drinking champagne. There's 3 times as many girls as guys. Some of you guys are listening to this and you're like, okay, now I understand. I'm starting to understand what he does. You're able to create these incredible environments. And in doing so, just imagine everyone. I try to teach networking through events. That's basically how I try to teach networking through small events at your house or large events, like a CES conference. I try to teach networking through those mechanisms. And then I try to show how evolution created humans throughout history. Dr. David Buss writes in his book, The Evolution of Desire, throughout history, the men who have worked in groups and in tandem with one another always had access to more resources and always had access to more women. And so that's the reason why, I teach these concepts. And so what happens is that blue heron thing that we did, the guy who ran it, he's at the forefront. And he goes, I want to just thank you guys for coming out here and helping me, blah, blah, blah. He had endeared so much goodwill with every mortgage broker, real estate agent. It was really crazy. All these other real estate agents wanted to train under him. People started sending him business. His business blew up. Another example I give, I have, that's Jeremy Green's his name. I have another example, my buddy Mark Perlberg, who's also in my program. Mark is an accountant. Mark started to see the way that I would use Zoom calls. And on the Zoom calls, Mark would go on and show how he understood accounting backwards and forwards better than everyone else who was listening. He showed himself to be a subject matter expert in the Zoom calls he was hosting. In doing so, just imagine, Jason, like, I don't believe accounting's your specialty, but if you listen to accountant at first, it's interesting. But after like an hour and a half, you get to the realization, like, this is interesting, but I don't want to do this. And then at about the 2-hour mark, you're like, this is interesting. I don't want to do this. How much do I have to pay you to do this? And so because he copied what we did, and he started hosting a podcast, and because he started hosting these Zoom calls with other professionals, people started. Now he tells me, he's like, I actually had to slow down the podcast because I can't handle all the business that I have. There's not enough of me in order for me to be able to do this. And he works from home. He just an incredible lifestyle that he's created. So when we go back to what we were saying before, I learned initially, okay, what are the mechanisms that cause people to be cool or not cool, to be popular or not popular, to be low status or high status? I learned that when I was working in Austin, a nightclub. I learned that when I was in the U.S. military, like what good leadership and bad leadership was. And then I learned it in the last 13 years here living in Las Vegas. And I took all those lessons from the last, say, 25 years, and I put them into a course called the Men of Action course, and try to concisely take this 25 years of knowledge and put it into one space so that everyone can learn how to do these kind of things. Now, here's where it might be confusing for some of your audience. The mechanisms that men use in order to show status with women in order to date them, and the mechanisms that men and women use in order to pitch an idea or to sell a product are the same mechanisms. They are the same. This is difficult. A lot of people don't grasp this. If you guys ever want to see a great example of this, great book you should all read is Oren Klaff's book called Pitch Anything. Listen to some of the words he uses. Jason, you remember? Eliminate neediness. Do you remember that? Eliminate neediness. Where does that come from? It didn't come from self-help. Eliminate neediness is a dating concept. Okay.
Right.
Avoid beta behavior. Do you remember? Oren Klaff says this in his book. He goes, avoid beta behavior. Where does that come from, Jason? That is a dating concept. So where do these things come from? At the highest level, Jordan Belfort, he calls it goal-oriented communication. So goal-oriented communication is, will you go on a date with me? Goal-oriented communication is, will you invest in my project? Goal-oriented communication is, will you come work for me? Goal-oriented communication. I'm doing this because this is like the apex of goal-oriented communication. All these places meet at the apex, and that is the understanding of basically Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, get people to talk about themselves. You can find common interests, figure out ways to break rapport, all these different things. And like what I teach my clients, Jason, the number one thing I teach my clients when it comes to high status networking is you need to be the person who always solves problems for other people and ask for nothing in return. A great example is, do you remember Harvey Keitel in the movie Pulp Fiction? You remember he's the wolf? Do you remember Pulp Fiction?
I haven't seen Pulp Fiction.
Okay, so tonight you're going to watch Pulp Fiction. But every single other person watching this has watched Pulp Fiction.
I know everybody else has watched it but me. So
there's a point where they have to clean up a dead body, and they have to call this guy named the Wolf, and he fixes things.
He's the cleaner.
The Wolf shows up in his accurate NSX. It's Harvey Keitel, and he just fixes things. He goes, "Are you going to listen to me, or do you want to go to jail?" And he just fixes everything. Right. That's what I've become. I'm the guy who fixes things for other people. I have a bunch of friends, and I help them find people for their sales team. Most of my friends have met their boyfriends or girlfriends through me. I help people find their employees. I'm the hub of the social wheel, and that's what I teach you to do in my course. If you cannot replace your social circle, your girlfriend, or your job in 15 minutes, you don't have enough abundance, and I need to teach you how to have more abundance. And so how do you do that? There's just certain mechanisms that people who have an abundance mentality and understand networking have. And when they use those techniques, then they can have anything they want. They get into any door. So another example, Jason, is like the guy who goes to the Ty Lopez conference or the Taylor Welsh conference or goes to see Cole Gordon or goes to see Wes Watson or goes to see whoever, the guy who is like, hey man, thank you for your time. The one who like goes and pays Patrick Bet-David for his counseling. And then there's the guy who goes to see Patrick David for his counseling. And then Patrick David is like, hey man, can I come visit you and so and hang out? Come meet my wife. Let me take you out to dinner. Does that make sense? Like there's a mechanism you'll see, like with a lot of people have asked me this before. Why is it that, other people are like paying to listen to Justin Waller speak, but like Justin Waller and I are like close friends? Why is it that other people like buy Rollo's book, but Rollo is one of my best friends? Why is it that like all these other people call me? And I'm not trying to say this to brag, but the reason why I'm trying to say this is there's a status line that you get to where you're a customer, and then you're his friend. How do you cross that status line? This is such a key for those of you who are like trying to get into sales or trying to understand networking. It's just like, I'm paying this guy, like how much, like I'm paying Tony Robbins. I'm a customer. Now Tony's like sending me messages on my birthday. What is that status line? Some people's like, well, you just need to have more money. And I'm telling you, that is not what the case is. That's definitely not what the case is. You want to get to the point where guys like my buddy Adam Sosnick, I'll ask him for advice.
I think that would be really, who would want to connect with people that they're only connecting with you because of money? I mean, that'd be a really shitty reason to be connecting with somebody. In the beginning, you will, but after a while, you learn. Whenever I go up and talk to my favorite influencer, as let's say I paid for his coaching program, is my voice cracking? Are my eyes getting big? Is my vocal tonality changing because I see this person as high status? Am I dressing too fancy to try to show off? Am I doing too much? Or am I just the normal dude? Oren Klaff, one of my favorite YouTube content creators. I don't know if you, or not Oren Klaff, I'm sorry. Orion Taraban. His name is Psych Hacks. I had him on my show a couple of days ago. He kind of converges behavioral economics with evolutionary psychology. And he basically talks about the sexual marketplace as far as economics is concerned. Okay. Really, really great person. Have him on my show. Ask him a bunch of stuff. During the show, one of the things I talk about is like, hey, Oren, I know that, or Orion, sorry, I keep saying Orion. I know that you do some sales stuff, some coaching stuff. If you want my help, I'll help you how to, put out a low ticket offer, high ticket offer, how you can like buy back your time. He's like, yeah, I can't scale myself that much. I was like, okay, so you're going to read Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. And then I gave him a bunch of books, that would probably help him. And then at the end, I was like, bro, anytime you want to call me and you ask me about any of this stuff, I'll help you. The guy who has you guys have to look it up. The guy with the world record in the high jump on planet Earth is a guy named Darius Clark.
He went to Texas A&M. He's the leading scorer in slam ball. Have you ever seen slam ball, Jason? You remember the trampolines and the basketball? They go dunk on each other. Anyway, I bumped into Darius at a slam ball game. We started talking, and then Darius is like, "Hey, man, I want to level up my social media." And I'm like, "Darius, let me figure out ways that I can help you level up your social media." So it's like one guy's like a professional athlete, another guy's an accountant. You might be saying, like, why is it you're able to do all these different things? And the reason why is because these are evolutionary problems. These are evolutionary challenges that all men we're looking for. There are three things that really differentiate men from women. Three massive things. There's more than three, but these are the three biggest ones. Okay. Jason, here. Number one, this is the most obvious one. It's upper body strength. Men are about 2 standard deviations stronger than women as far as upper body strength, meaning the medium grip strength for a man, it puts him in the top, 98% and top 2% of women. Make sense?
Yeah. The second one throws off our balance is higher on our body.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. Also, there's a reason why some of the reasons why men live shorter lives is because they keep their weight up here around their waist, whereas women keep it below their hips, and that's it's further away from their heart. There's a couple other things according to that. Now, that's the first thing. The second one is variety of sexual partners. Men are, again, 2 standard deviations far more meaning the median man is interested in more women than the other way around. But puts him in the top 2%. But the third one, and this was a really interesting one, and I knew this one, but it was Ty Lopez. I was at his house last Wednesday, and he was explaining this. Do you know the main thing where women just do not care that much about at all, but men are obsessed with? You know what it is? It's
Muscles?
in your title. No, it's in your title.
Oh, let's see. Friends? High status? What? No, I don't know.
Status. Okay. Women do not care women in general do not care as much about status as men do, meaning women don't kill each other over status as men have been doing for the last 100,000 years. So in fact,
women care about men having status.
Huh?
Women care about men having status.
Women care about the men that they're with having status. Yes. They do.
Okay.
Yes.
I see.
Meaning they care about status as an object to obtain, but not as something for themselves. Or rather, if you've ever lived on a military base, it's one of the strangest things. Whoever the base commander's wife is, she's like the leader of the wives. It's so weird. She did nothing. She didn't go to officer school. She didn't do shit. But because she's married to the 06, the base commander, whenever they have engagements, it's so funny. Anybody who's been in the military, this is true. Whoever the base commander's wife is, she's all of a sudden like the leader of all the events, even though, why? Because she's married to the base commander. That's the way it works. Yeah. So women in general, engendered into themselves, don't care as much about status as men do. Men care about status far more than women do. And so because of these concepts, that's why you'll see, like with a lot of the stuff I'm saying, when it comes to sales, this is for men and women. But when it comes to dating, women do not sit there and have to show their status in order to attract men, but the other way they do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's why it's like an important differentiation to make. And that's one of the other things that I teach in my course. Like when you're selling to men versus women is something that you need to understand. You don't necessarily need to sell to women based on status. Like hey, honey, or they don't go, hey, Sherry, how'd you like those big shoulders to show off those muscles to get those guys? No, they don't. That's a status thing. Shoulder to waist ratio is like a male strength, machismo, testosterone status thing that women just aren't as interested in, So there's just interesting concepts like that, this divergence, innate differences between men and women. And where do we find these differences? We find them in evolutionary studies.
So I think it's really interesting what you talked about earlier. You mentioned like this gravitation towards basically what works, right? Mm-hmm. And we see this everywhere. Like I've been in lots of different programs. I work with lots of different mentors, coaches, read lots of different books. And I'm noticing more and more I evolve as a human being. I'm noticing more and more parallels between the best ideas. Like I just read a book on kids. It was like how to talk so kids will listen and how to listen so kids will talk. And it's probably one of the best communication books I've ever read. Like anybody could learn from reading this book, because to some degree we're all little kids in bigger
even
bodies.
without kids.
And also I was like, this is brilliant, like self-talk, like psychology, even in this book. And I'm like, this could be applied to so many different things. And it talks about empathetic, like being empathetic in your communication. I'm like, this is brilliant. This will work so effectively for sales or for anything. And people think, oh, it's for kids, right? And so what works. And I read another book Something About Relationships by David B. Wolf. It was a really good book. And there were so many, and this was for grownups, but there were so many parallels between these things. And you had mentioned also with dating and for example, sales. Really, there's so many parallels between going out and trying to get clients and trying to get dates. Like when I
the higher you go, they're not parallels. They're exactly the same. When you get to the top, they're exactly like what I'm saying is when you get to the top, meaning like Hugh Hefner, like when you're at the top and then you just see it's just a total presentation and it's nothing but just showing status, then you start, oh, it's the same thing. It's the same. I bought a Tesla. Like Playboy is a brand. Tesla is a brand. You start to see they're doing the same thing to your brain.
So for the business owners listening to this who are not trying to be Hugh Hefner, right? Sure. They're not, and maybe they're married like me and they're not like trying to get women, but they do want to increase their sales. They do want to increase their status, and they want to figure out how to attract more business. What are maybe some of the things that they could do to be more attractive to the real estate investors that they're trying to get as clients?
Yeah, I will tell you the first thing is you need to be way more cognizant of how you are perceived socially. And for a lot of people, so one of the things you have to understand is the more things become digital and the more your image can be spread across social media platforms, the less your actual, the less the actual merit of your business matters and the more the perception of your business matters. Okay?
Yeah. So, and how do they get an accurate view of how they're perceived?
You could ask other people. I mean, generally the market is going to tell you, right? What is the price of a commodity? The market's going to end up telling you, right? In a free market economy. But it's like when you make social media content, you need to make the content to market your business in a sexy, fun way that catches people's attention, but it doesn't have to be extremely representative. And I know this is really hard for a lot of people to do because they're like, no, I'm just going to be myself and make content that feels organic. And I'm just telling you that doesn't work. I don't care what Gary Vaynerchuk told you. That is not the way the world works. Everyone else is stunting. Everyone is using FaceApp and Facetune. All these other people are just showing images and pictures of the best parts of their life. No, like I post on social media all the time. I did not post anything about me feeding my cats this morning. Like the people want to see the cool stuff. That's just generally the way it is. So the way you are perceived on social media, again, that's what we, Men of Action, our group is when you're in a community that gives you accountability and feedback to let you know, hey man, this is not a good post or this is a good post. When we are on Instagram specifically, Instagram trades a currency, and that currency is called status. That's all Instagram is. Facebook is not like that. By the way, you guys will notice, for those of you who do any kind of marketing, Facebook is going to work really well for your 38, 40-year-old audience and older. And Instagram is going to work for your audience below 38 to maybe 28, and then maybe to 25, and below 25, it's going to be TikTok. And you'll notice, depending on which audience you're trying to get to, that's where you're going to see the most prevalence on those different platforms. Also, you're also going to see the most politically progressive of those platforms will be TikTok, and the most politically conservative of all those platforms will be like Twitter or X. So these are kind of the things that you have to learn. But what you need out there is a perception that people have of your business and you of it as an entrepreneur. So you need to be trustworthy. You need to seem like you know more than everyone else, like you're a subject matter expert, and you need to seem extremely motivated. And in doing so as well, when you show images of your business and you personally, you need to show relevancy, competency, access to scarce resources, and social proof. Those are the things that will help. So what I mean by social proof, other people in the industry following you on Instagram is a great way to almost look like a testimonial, or maybe they leave comments. That's a great way to show social proof. Relevancy. Are you just trying to use banner ads from 25 years ago? Or you're like, well, I'm still using email blasts. Okay, if I'm talking to a guy in real estate and he's telling me about email blasts, I know he's not relevant anymore. If I'm sitting there talking to if that's all he's talking about, right? If he's sitting there being like, he doesn't use Instagram, but he's got an SEO guy, I'm like, okay, he's not relevant anymore. He doesn't know, he hasn't changed things. But whenever I talk to a guy and he's like, yeah, what I did was I started a podcast, and in my podcast, I do 20-minute interviews with different people using Restream, and then I have a guy come through and make clips, and then the best clips, I end up promoting those clips on Instagram or using Meta Facebook ad manager, Meta ad manager. And in doing so, then I make the best ones and I turn them into advertisements and I put a CTA at the end. I'm like, okay, that guy's relevant. That guy gets it. I immediately know
we're relevant here at DoorGrow. Then that's good.
Huh?
Then we're relevant here at DoorGrow.
No, you're what you're doing is extremely relevant. That's why I'm on here.
So it's kind of like if they have an AOL email address, they're like, "What's your email?"
It's exactly.
Like,
it's not
AOL.com, and you're like, or you're like, wait a second.
I have a Facebook, but I don't have an Instagram. You're just not relevant. Right. Like I can tell you're not relevant, and the problem is like it doesn't. There's nothing having when people are like, "Well, my audience isn't on Instagram." It's like it doesn't matter if your audience is on Instagram. You're trying to grow your audience, and by the way, the market will tell you what it wants. And every day, I'm sorry for those of you who don't want to hear this. Every day, each one of these platforms becomes slightly less relevant. Okay, TikTok is on its uprise right now. Instagram is becoming less relevant because of TikTok, Rumble, YouTube, and MySpace to a certain MySpace. Facebook is how old I am. Facebook to a certain audience is also already completely irrelevant. You'll see women below a certain age do not have a Facebook, but they do have an Instagram. So the answer is to have all of them. All of you should be making 30 to 90 second content, the up and down type of content. Not landscape, but profile content. You should be making that, and it should be going on Snapchat. It should be going on X. It should be going on YouTube. It should YouTube Shorts, TikToks, and Facebook and Instagram Reels. It should be going in all those different places. You can use HubSpot or some other platform in order to post that content. And the content doesn't just have to be clips that go viral from podcasts. You can do man on the street videos. And here's a big one. All of you can do this. You can do reaction videos. All of you can do reaction videos. They're so easy to do. And by the way, you don't even have to you're just like, Michael, I don't know how to use OBS and I don't know how to do a reaction video. All you have to do is sit like I'm sitting right now. I'm in my den. Obviously I put some soundproofing behind me, but I'm in my den. I got a big old ring light in front of me. And somebody comes up to me and goes, Michael, what do you think about the Trump assassination attempt? Or Michael, what do you think about, Kamala Harris or whatever? And I'm like, and I'll just turn my camera like this, like I'm talking, man, I'll tell you what I'm thinking. I'm thinking blah, 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 blah. And you just say, and as soon as people watch the video and they're like, this guy's about to tell me what he's thinking, then everyone will watch. And then some of you are listening right now and you're like, Michael, I'm just a property manager. I don't want to talk about politics. Really? Go watch Ryan Pineda. Go watch Brad Lee. Go watch Cody Sanchez. Go watch Tom Bilyeu. Go watch any of these guys who are crushing it in their fields. They give their opinions on everything. Notice how, dude, did you guys hear Alex Hormozi now talks about dating? What? You're building a brand. Status is status is status. Like nobody cares. This is the other thing, Jason, a lot of your clients, and this is something I've talked to you about, and everyone in my program hears me talk about this ad nauseum, is the concept of like, I'm afraid that I'm going to post the wrong thing. And nobody holds you accountable for anything you have to say. Like I was just looking at a video of Kamala Harris at a P. Diddy party walking around with Montel Jordan. No one seems to care that ever happened. No one cares about Joe Biden talking about, I don't want to send my kids to school with the monkeys. Nobody cares about that. Yeah. No one cares. Like you said, like Donald Trump had sex with a porn star while his wife was pregnant, and no one and they brought it up during the debates, and no one cares. No one cares. That like literally one of the most popular movies of all time, The Wolf of Wall Street, is about a man who did 15 months in prison for securities fraud, punched his wife in the stomach, kidnapped his own kid, did quaaludes and slept with prostitutes. And then afterwards, he is one of the top sales trainers in the world today. But you guys think anyone cares. Caitlyn Jenner runs over someone, kills them, and then 4 months later is named Woman of the Year. But you're like, Michael, I'm a property manager. What if I post the wrong thing? What if I put no? If you get, and here's another thing, Jason, and this is a poor reflection on humanity, but it's absolutely true. If you get popular enough, they will forgive you for anything. And if you don't believe me, right before OJ died, I had a conversation with him, and they had offered him millions of dollars to do a fantasy football podcast. And I was like, OJ, what about those people you stabbed 56 times? Nobody cares. So many of you are watching this right now, and you're like, you have 400 followers on Instagram, and you're like so worried about posting the wrong thing. Right. Bro, you don't have 400 followers on Instagram. You have 4 followers on Instagram, and one of them's your mom. No one cares what you're doing. All of you, most of you on social media are irrelevant, and because you're irrelevant on social media, in reality, you're invisible. You're invisible. And so your job, listening to this, when you ask me what the advice is, your job is to become visible. Some of you will be offended by what I say, and the rest of you will be successful. You got to decide which one you want to be.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second here, right? So, because a lot of property managers, they think, I'm going to go start posting about property management and maybe I'll get some investors that want to like work with me. And so they start posting property management with this false assumption that people really care about property management, right?
They don't care.
Like nobody wakes up in the morning going, and so the analogy I'll usually share with property managers is I'll say, how many plumbers are you following on social media? And they'll say none. Why? I said, they want your business. You're not, why aren't you following them?
Yeah.
And so there's this false reality that these social media marketers will sell to property managers. They're like, like wasting their time. And some of them spend a lot of money and time with these social media companies, wasting time promoting their property management business on social media when nobody gives a shit about property management. Even their clients don't wake up in the morning and go, man, I'm thinking about property management.
Jason,
what should they be doing instead?
Yes. Jason, you saying that just got me. I want someone who's watching this to do this and then tag me in the video when you do it. Jason, as a property manager, do you ever have nightmare tenants?
So to be clear, for those listening,
yeah,
I'm not managing properties. I'm coaching property management business owners, but they would say, yes, they have nightmare tenants all the time.
You have nightmare clients. Do you ever have nightmare vendors? Like guys who come, like when I say vendor, what I mean is the plumber, the carpenter, the guy who comes
with vendors constantly. They have nightmare owners. They're managing properties.
What about, and I wouldn't do nightmare owners because you're trying to get business. I wouldn't talk about nightmare owners.
Right.
What I would talk about is, hey, I would start off a clip just like this. I had a nightmare tenant. This guy was destroying, and then it would just show pictures. This guy was destroying everything in the place. I swear he didn't know how to, he couldn't aim and hit the toilet. He was just destroyed the place. And this is what I did to fix it. And here's 3 tips for you to deal with a nightmare tenant. Viral.
Yeah.
Viral. Not only are you viral, everyone's coming to you. It's like, man, I don't want a nightmare tenant. I just bought this 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. I don't want a nightmare tenant. I'm going to go do what he does. Some of you
I don't want it to be a meth house eviction.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I would do. I would go over like, what are these? And because what you're going to do is, what are the biggest fears of the people who are hiring property owners? My nightmare tenant, my tenant who doesn't pay, like those kind of things. And I would make content. What are the 3 steps that I did to do? What are the 5 tips that a lot of people in this place don't do right? I would make content like that. And then there's all like, you could Opus. There's these AI software apps that'll basically take the clip and then they'll just inject B-roll that fits whatever the words you're saying. You don't have to hardly do any work when you do it. And then all of a sudden it's like, it was a nightmare. This guy's made my place look like a roach house, roach infested. And then they'll actually pull up an image of a rope, like Shutterstock image of a roach infested home, whatever.
Now they're using AI even. I'm seeing a lot of AI images just flashing.
Yeah. Correct. It could actually illustrate using artificial intelligence to illustrate the image for you. You could actually do that so you don't run into any copyright issues, right? Or any permission issues. There's just so many ways to do this. But what are you doing? You're showing relevancy and competency. Yeah. You know how to use Instagram. You know how to create a clip using artificial intelligence. You have good audio. You have good lighting. You're showing relevancy. You're showing competency. You're showing high intelligence. You're showing high social status. And then in the comments, you're like, LMAO, like people are laughing my ass off. This happened to me. Oh my God, Jason, same shit. 100% true. And now I have social status. I have all these things. Why? Because I made some content that was engaging about something that is incredibly unsexy, which is property management. That's how you do it. What are those ultimate fears that your prospective clients have? And I would just do nothing but make content about that. I have a friend of mine, FitX Fearless. His name is Bismarck. And this guy, he goes, these are 3 reasons why you are ugly. And I'm like, what? And like, he really goes after people. Just like, this is the reason why your girlfriend is cheating on you right now. And everyone just watch. I'm like, what? And I don't want to watch, but I'm like, I need to watch this video. What's going on?
Yeah.
It's so great. It's so great. And no, Michael, you need to be authentic with your social. No, you don't. You don't need to be authentic. You need to capture people's attention. You need to be attractive. That's what your primary job is, to be attractive on social media. Now, what happens is, now you got them with the hook. Here are the top 3 things that I do to deal with this horrible tenant that I have. And then when they come in the hook, now throughout there, you give those three explanations, but you also throw in a little piece of advice that shows just a little humble brag that shows, in my 27 years of property management, this is the thing that I've learned. Oh, okay, a little humble brag. And at the end, he goes, if you want to learn more, comment the word guide below. Or if you're on YouTube, you'd be like, go down into the description and click the link and then blah, blah, blah. And it just sends them right down your sales funnel. Maybe to a low ticket offer, maybe an ebook that you wrote, something like that. And then next thing you know, you've 10x your profits. You've 10x your revenue. You're selling a course on property management while writing a book on property management, while having a podcast on property management, while being a property manager, all of it at the same time. And then you got to hire a new accountant because you got too many write-offs. Like you don't have enough time to pay your taxes. You got too much money. That's how this works. And that's about what I just explained to you is just the difference between getting it and not getting it, being relevant and not being relevant. And so a lot of people, they listen to me and they always make me out to be the bad guy because what I do is I tell people no one cares about you. And no one likes to hear that. They like to think that the rest of the world cares about property managers. But like you said, no one's following plumbers, right? Yeah. But if I was a plumber, I would do the same thing. Man, I walked into this house and this toilet had exploded, and just have an image of it and be like, okay, I need to hear what this is. And then a monster crawled out of the toilet. Just kidding. And like, that's what I would do just to keep people's attention.
So for those listening, can we qualify you a little bit related to social media? Because you've got a good following, you've got a sizable business. And these are because people listening are like, if they don't know who you are, I want them to recognize you're very qualified to talk about this. Can you not so humble brag about yourself for a second?
I have a Men of Action. We have 1,600 clients that have gone through there. 200 video testimonials if you go on the school server. And also we have a free community, a free school server with about 4,500 guys in there. You're welcome to message. One of the things that I've told people is that if I join a group and they tell me not to talk to the other people in the group, I know this is a scam. You'll notice sometimes with right? MLMs, you'll see that. I implore you to talk to any client that's ever gone through my program, and they will tell you how incredibly satisfied they were. Also, Jason, you've seen my course is extremely comprehensive. It's about 65 hours long. But that doesn't even include the live calls. And then also there's a required book list that you have to read in order to go through the course. I'll tell you right now,
like an 8-figure business for you.
Yeah. So we just today we've done 8 figures in total, but as of this month, this is the first month where we crossed the mark. It was what, 833 a month or something like that. We crossed that this month. So that's about, so we're doing about a little bit under 8 figures in revenue per year.
This is more than any property managers probably listening to my show. So
sure.
For perspective. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. I mean, because coaching is scalable. That's the reason why. And like the other thing I want you guys to understand is a lot of people got into real estate because they were trying to find a scalable way of making income, and they're using you to make their life scalable. So if you guys read Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell, they're paying you to buy back their time as real estate owners. That's what their job is. And essentially you're going to eventually do the same thing. You're going to pay someone to buy back your time from them. So the main difference, and I'm sure many of you entrepreneurs already know this, when you start off in the workforce, you are trading your time for money. You're working at Chick-fil-A or McDonald's, and you're being paying an hourly salary. Later on, you're trading your money for time. I pay one guy. Jason, I pay a guy. He comes into my house. He turns on my computer. He turns on my camera. He turns on my lights. He sits me down, and then he just starts yelling at me to talk about certain subjects. And I have no idea. I'm just like drinking coffee, and I'm like, what up? As he goes, what do you think about this? And I'm like, oh man, let me tell you something. And then they record it, and then it's just a reaction video. And I do nothing. I pay to get my time back. I have several editors that live in Romania and Nigeria and all these, because I don't want to edit videos anymore. I used to be a video editor and a videographer. I don't want to do it anymore. I pay one place to do the live editing for my podcast. I don't want to do that anymore. I pay to get my time back. For those of you who are considering hiring a personal assistant, once again, highly recommend Dan Martell's book, Buy Back Your Time. In the book, he talks about taking your yearly salary and divide it by 8,000, and that's what you pay the guy hourly. Take your yearly salary, how much you make in a year, your yearly income, divide it by 8,000. They go over the reason why, but it ends up becoming like a 40-hour work week. You end up paying him half of what one hourly wage for a year. So if your time is worth $1,000 an hour, you might pay him $500 an hour to get certain things done for your life. And one of my favorite sayings in that book is something done 80% right is 100% awesome. And it was one of the hardest things to give up. The guy who does my timestamps, that was really hard. I love doing timestamps because timestamps were giving me clips, and those clips would go viral, and the virality would make me money, but I had to give that up. And eventually you're going to give up all these processes. Another thing I'll explain for you guys who are entrepreneurs, one of the greatest tools you will ever find is an app called Loom. Loom, look up Loom. What
Yeah, I
Loom
love
is
them.
allows you to make videos, but the video, it's like it's showing the screen on your phone or it's showing the screen on your computer while they're listening to your voice, and you send
Yeah.
it to your person. So, like for instance, I do mass invites for certain events that I do. So I'll go on Loom and I'll have a guy, maybe he speaks Farsi, or maybe this guy speaks, like his English isn't that great. And what I'll do is I'll go through my invite slowly and I'll do it like for 30 minutes. I'll just do invites and I'll so he can see what it looks like. And then I send it to him and then he looks at it and he has no questions. And my invites are done like that. Loom is one of the greatest way of passing along SOPs to people and then using them in order to buy back your time. So understanding all these concepts, it makes you more relevant, it makes you more competent, it gives you higher status, it gives you more access. And these are the things that you're looking for in any walk of life, but especially in something like property management. And you guys also understand, as property managers, your job isn't sexy. So what you have to do is you have to show the sexy parts of your job, right? My favorite one are accountants and dentists. They're not my friends who are dentists who know what they're doing. They show the fucking horror job teeth, car accident, messed up teeth, meth addict, whatever. And then they get the teeth back to 100%. And like me, as someone who doesn't care that much about dentistry, I'm just like staring like, oh my God, that was incredible.
Yeah.
You can take, what you do is you figure out you figure out people's primary driver emotion and their biggest fear. And then from those things, from the primary driver emotion and their biggest fear, and from those things, then you make your content attacking those primary driver emotions and those biggest fears.
Okay.
And when you do so, it doesn't make any difference if you're an accountant, it doesn't make any difference if you're a property manager, it doesn't make any difference what it is that you sell. People will watch and they will be obsessed. I said my brother, he watches videos of horseshoes. They basically, they shave off the end of the horse's hoof and then they put the shoes on. He said it's like the most relaxing thing in the world to watch. And I wouldn't even think about that, but why is it? It's like something we don't even think about that much, but it's pretty amazing. Like when you see, it's like very relaxing to watch stuff like that. You can do
there's
stuff
a
like
guy.
that.
There's a guy that's viral for he finds distressed houses and he just cleans up their lawn and the sidewalk. He's like, hey, could I mow your lawn?
Beautiful.
And it's like relaxing to watch the transformation. Yeah.
Another one that's great was, if you guys watch the early Ryan Pineda stuff, what was he doing? He was flipping couches. He would find crappy couches, clean them up, and then he would sell them again. And he made a living from flipping couches. There's just all these different things. And like the concept of it sounds so boring, but I want to watch someone do it. Right.
Right.
What was the one where you'd buy those storage units and then you'd see whatever's in this? I forgot what that was. It was Pawn Stars or something, where the people would buy storage units and open up in there. And there's like, sometimes there'd be nothing in the storage unit. Sometimes there'd be like a dead body in there or some crazy shit. Like they find like a skull and like, you know what I'm saying? Some murder investigation. All of a sudden they find a bunch of, bag full of money. Yeah. By the way, you guys know the producers were putting that bag of money in there, right? Like that wasn't real. That wasn't real.
Yeah. Reality TV isn't real either.
Yeah.
You like to say social media isn't real. And that's okay, or something.
So
like
rule number 4 in Men of Action is social media is fake, and I'm okay with that because the money's real. And the world isn't fair, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
The world isn't fair, and I'm okay with it. Rule number 4 in Men of Action is about acceptance. It's about accepting the world the way it is and never being a victim. It's sure, things are hard for you, but you're never a victim. You might be too short. English might not be your first language and you're having a hard time speaking it. You might be born poor. You might be born with some kind of ailment or disability that you feel like holds you back, but that's where you are. You start from where you are and then you create from there. Okay. You were saying something before about how you noticed like all these books kind of converge into the same place. 3 books that have nothing to do with each other, but it's the same content. Ready? The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson, and Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. If you read it,
what is that one?
Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari.
Oh,
like if you read those books, you're like, wait a second. It's all the same thing. It's all the same. It's all this. I get to choose how I react. I get to tell myself stories that change my behavior. It's all 3 of these books that have nothing to do with each other end up being the same book. Not exactly the same book, but similar books. Because once you get to the highest levels of enlightenment, transcendence, goal-oriented communication, it ends up being the same thing for everyone.
There's one of my favorite books is by Byron Katie called Loving What Is. And basically she takes you through this process of just asking yourself these 4 sort of questions to challenge your current view of reality. And it takes you out of this victim sort of view. It's very much like cognitive behavioral therapy, maybe, or something like this, right?
Yes.
Like, or CBT or something. But so asking this question, is this belief that I have actually true? And what most people, a lot of our beliefs that we're holding on to that are holding us back. And like, if we're not getting results in life, it's because we currently have beliefs that are not working for us. And so if you see people that things are working well for them, even though you think like somebody might be watching you right now going, Michael is completely full of shit. He's throwing out all these crazy stuff, and he worked at a strip club, and I'm like, somebody's like so against that or whatever. They're like their own stumbling block, and they're in their way, and they won't pay attention to the truth or the things that you're sharing that are good, because they're so stuck on everything in the universe having to look a certain way that they are not even open to receiving more. They're not willing to challenge their own thinking. They're not going to progress. They're going to stay stuck.
They identify more with their identity than they identify with success.
Yeah, good way of saying it. And I love how you talked about kind of these currencies. One of my mentors in the past was Alex Sharfin, and he's from here in the Austin area as well. And he was talking about time, energy, focus, cash, and effort. He calls the 5 currencies. And Hermosi went through Alex Sharfin's like coaching with me. I met Layla and Alex in this. And one of the things that I then saw Alex talk about these currencies, but what I thought was interesting is Alex said the most significant of those 5 currencies in order to scale and grow your business is focus. It's the most important to scale and grow a company. And then Dan Martell, I once saw him teach this framework that was it was like about the power of one. He's like, the most effective business is a business that has one sales funnel, one product, it was like all ones. Like, and I see property managers a lot of times, they'll try and like start 5 different businesses. They're like, I'm going to start a cleaning company, a maintenance company, like all these other things because they're complementary, real estate brokerage. And then they wonder why none of them are growing, because they lack focus. And so all these things kind of converge, making sure that we have focus. You also mentioned Dan Martell, who I think is a brilliant entrepreneur. He generally was coaching like software companies, SaaS companies, to help them grow and scale. But his stuff's applicable to coaching businesses. I've noticed it's applicable to anything because the principles are valid. And one of the things I've had my clients do to get them to that next level, to basically get their time back, is to have them do a time study to where they become accountable for their time, which things are positive and which things are negative, like plus or minus, which things give them energy in life and which things take it away in their own business. Yeah. And I have them do this like usually once a quarter. And when I did my first time study, I realized I was doing like 4 hours of podcast production in a week. It all added up. And I was like, holy shit. So then I just hired a company to do it. It was a no-brainer to let that go, because it was stupid at that point for me to hold on to that once I could see that challenge. And you mentioned Loom, awesome tool. For like one of my favorite tools, which is next level. It's like Loom, but it's Wistia's video recorder. It lets you actually record the screen and yourself. And then after the recording's made, you can then have it mid-recording. You can switch which parts are showing and have segues between the two. And it's super fast. It's like super cool. But we use so many
tools like that for productivity. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I love all these ideas for collapsing time. Michael's dropped several awesome tools, knowledge bombs, ideas for those that are listening, and also how to leverage content social media wise. So what, if we were to bring this full circle, what would you say is the most important thing that maybe business owners or property managers could be doing to scale and grow their business right now?
Again, one more time. It is, understand your ability to grow is based on your perceived status, your perceived trustworthiness, your perceived know-how, not your actual know-how. Like, I can tell you so many guys that I know that are real estate experts on YouTube. And then I have my friends of mine that are real estate agents, and they're like, that guy doesn't know shit. And I'm like, no, he's coaching the white belts. That's the reason why he says the things that he says, and they have a hard time dealing with it. So understanding that concept, and then you have to leave yourself. You have to subvert your own ego, go on places like TikTok or Instagram, places you'd never think to go to, and then look at who's going viral, who's in your exact industry. And you're going to need to take pieces from what you see. Like, what are the kind of videos that do really well? And you're going to be able to find those very quickly. You can literally right now go on TikTok and look up property management, and you'll find a bunch of videos. Like just pick the ones that go the most viral, or real estate podcasts, and then pick the topics that go the most viral, and just blatantly steal them. Blatantly steal everything. You in the beginning, no creativity necessary, just steal. Okay. And you do that for a while, and then you sort of get your footing, and then you start to realize, wait a second, I've been running ads, and my ROAS per dollar in, my ads is X 1.2 or 2.0 or whatever. But in organic, my cost per lead is like nothing, because my organic traffic, it costs me so much less to get a lead. It's incredible. Then I go on someone else's podcast because my content is getting better and better. And then all of a sudden now, Rich Summers and Ryan Pineda want me to come on their show to talk about, maybe I'm on Iced Coffee Hour or whatever, talking about real estate. And then I get on bigger and bigger shows. And now my cost per lead decreases even more, because I just made this simple, I just had this simple understanding that the way it works is my perceived status, my perceived know-how, and my perceived trustworthiness to other people are the reasons why people will buy my product. Now, you may already, obviously, everyone who's listening to this, if you have any success in property management, you already have your funnel. Your funnel is probably dealing with either word of mouth, shaking hands, or it's dealing with some sort of paid advertisement. But I implore you, try organic. Try to use organic, and then organic meaning using Instagram posts or Facebook posts. And then once you do that, try to take your best content and turn your best content into advertisements and promote that content. That's something we've also been doing. And if you want examples on everything I just said, a great book, a great place to start is the $100 Million Offer series by Alex Hormozi. He goes over every single thing that I just talked about.
Good stuff.
It's absolutely fantastic. It's really great stuff. The difference is with my program, MOA, we're a little bit more bespoke for what it is exactly that you're doing. But we're mostly talk about networking. And then the other thing is when you actually meet that person in person that you want to work with, do you come off as a fanboy? Do you come off as too eager? Does your body language show signs of neediness or signs of low status? Are these things that you can watch? And then how do you figure that out? You watch yourself on camera? Do you watch yourself on other people's podcasts? Because that's one of the things is like as social media grows and more people are exposed to more people, just remember, like, if you consider in the Pleistocene, we live in hunter-gatherer societies of 150 people, and now we can legitimately have 100,000 friends on social media in that kind of situation. Because we're exposed to more people, we're more attuned to status, physical appearance, etc. And so now what happens is humans essentially become more shallow. They become more attuned to other people's status. And rightly or wrongly, is it a negative commentary on humans? Yes, it probably is. But it's the world you live on. And if you want to get rich, you need to listen to what I'm saying. And if what I'm saying offends you, then get ready to stay poor. Like, I'm sorry, because this is the if you guys are listening to this right now and you're like, no, social media is going to go away and we're going to go back to walking up to doors and doing email blasts and buying banner ads. If that's what you think, go back to your AOL.com email and just keep believing that that's the case. It's all about the handshake. It's like, if that's what you believe, that's fine. But for the rest of you who are ready to understand that if you think things are bad, I got news for you. They're only going to get worse. Meaning people aren't going to put their phones down at dinner. People aren't going to take fewer photos. I was reading something. It was like in one day now, more photos are taken in like an hour than were taken during the entire year of 1985 or something like that. It was like the amount of photographic and video data that's uploaded in 1 hour exceeds the total photographs taken in an entire year back in the 1980s. Some absurd number like that. Things are going in one direction. Things are getting faster. They're more virtual. They're more digital. They're going to be controlled by artificial intelligence, and they're going to be more scalable. You need to get on that train. The train is leaving. You need to get on the train now. If you don't want to get on the train, that's fine. But notice as the world passes you by, and the rate at which it passes you by only increases every year. If you want to learn about that, read Ray Kurzweil's series called "The Singularity Is Near," and you can see how he talks about the rate of change is increasing, and then the rate of change is also increasing.
Okay, so this is awesome stuff. So Michael, one thing I want to point out for those that are listening, because I think you've sold your Men of Action short a little bit. So I want to say something about it, because what I think is in what people think is in there, probably based on what you're saying, is it's a bunch of social media stuff, and it's like how to get women or something like this. I think though you've created a program that are making men better men. Like you're covering topics in here like leadership and time management and like not just networking, which is to build status, but you're making them better people that people would want to network with, that people would want to connect with. And like I'm in the Austin group for Men of Action.
Men of Action, yeah.
And
that was one of the first groups.
These are good guys. Like they're cool guys. We've hung out, and I'm like I'm the older married guy, like in the group hanging out with them, but they're all striving to like better themselves, not just to show that they look better maybe on social media, but they're also like working to be better people.
Yeah.
And, you know, I love the book Extreme Ownership, by the way. I think just that principle alone would change every business's life, every man's life, every person's life, if they would just not be a victim and they would own their shit. Like it would be huge. It's like should be required reading for business owners. So if you're listening to this, go read that book. So, but you're sharing and exposing them to a lot of these books. Like I've read a lot of the books on the reading list, not all of them, so I've got a ways to go, but you're also exposing them to some of the best ideas for leveling themselves up as a human being.
Yes. So consider this concept, right? Something that sounds super arrogant is the idea of taking pictures of yourself without a shirt on every day and then posting a story on your Instagram. At first, it seems like, wow, how arrogant is that? But if it causes you to lose enough weight to where you're no longer, a threat to get diabetes, or you lose enough weight to where your body fat index is low enough to where the opposite sex finds you attractive, or it causes you to lose enough weight that it actually takes away strain on your heart, that narcissistic, arrogant thing that you did saved your life and made you a better person.
Yeah, you get to be around for your kids, right? Like that would be better, right? I'm doing 75 hard right now. I was 31 days into it. And then I forgot to take the picture. And so I just started over on like a weekend. So it's now 107 days hard for me is what it's going to end up being. But yeah, but that's the thing. And every day you take the pic and you're doing the exercises and doing all this stuff, but it's more of a mental toughness challenge. And the fitness piece is tough, right? Like you have to take care of yourself in order to keep up, but it's more of just being willing to invest in yourself and do hard things and to make hard decisions in order to get to that next level.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And it's also, it's work smarter, not harder. Like if you really had all the intel, like for instance, if you were just flat broke, but you had Dan Fleischman's brain, Ty Lopez's brain, if you had Wes Watson's brain, if you had Justin Waller's brain, if you had Greg O'Gallagher's brain, Brandon Carter's brain, if I could just take their info and put it into your brain and you were completely broke, you'd be a millionaire within 18 months. More than that. You'd be a decamillionaire in 18 months because these guys, there's two different things. There's money and then there's the mechanisms to make money. The second one is the one you want. The first one, people born with trust funds, they have money. Money's great. I'm not telling you money's bad, but the mechanisms to make money, not only does it give you more security, it's just a more fulfilling way of living life. And then the other part is making your friends rich. That's another great thing. We haven't even got into that part, but like networking with your friends to help them make more money is another great, incredibly fulfilling thing that you can do. Having people who work for you and then like making their lives more fulfilling and ensuring their security in life because you're able, like, again, what do I do? I'm doing a podcast right now. What am I doing? I'm doing this so that we can lower the cost per lead. Like essentially, I know I'm saying the quiet part loud right now, but this is the truth. And you're doing the same thing. What I'm trying to do is use organic traffic to get leads to go down my funnel. And when they do so, then they get to my sales team. Because they're taking in a warm lead, the likelihood of a conversion increases from like 1% to 6% to 9% based on how warm the lead is. Now the lead goes through and the cost per lead decreases because I'm doing this whole thing right now. So I'm doing this to help my sales team and make my sales team's life easier. And in doing so, make it so that they have more security in their life with their family. When you get to that point, that's the most fulfilling way to live your life. That's more important than being rich, is being able to do something like that, accomplishing goals with a team.
Yeah, and me having you on the podcast exposes me to new audiences, new people, and people that follow you are people that are like, oh, Michael's had all these really amazing guests on his show also, and Michael has a certain level of status that helps my status level as well,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And that's really, and a lot of people think, oh, that sounds, maybe that's not authentic or it's disingenuous or whatever. But these are how we make connections. This is part of the networking game of life. And by connecting with other people, this is how we create relationships. This is how we create friends. This is how we identify people that we want to become more like, or how we want to, or people we want to be exposed and connected to. And by doing that, it helps us to grow as a human being, right? We're around the more people that I get to be around that are operating at a high level, the more it puts me in a state of wanting to be operating at a high level. And then this is also what you talked about, is why I love coaching business owners. I love being able to coach and support entrepreneurs. I learn as I do it. I get lots of ancillary benefits by doing it, but also it allows me a reason to feed my addiction to learning and to growth so that I can turn around and benefit them. And so
Yeah.
it really creates this win-win-win scenario. And I'm sure that your involvement in Men of Action, I get from your content that you are legitimately invested in making these men better.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's an
It's not
amazing
just a
thing,
money grab for you.
especially for during, well, I mean, I did it for 14 years for free. So it's definitely not a money grab for me. The reason
Right.
why we did six figures the first month we opened was because I'd been coaching since '08 for no money.
Mm.
There were a couple of self-help organizations that would fly me out to do speeches, but I never, because I worked in finance. I was a stock option seller. I was a portfolio manager for a small fund out of Florida. And that's what I did for a living. And all the other stuff was just like what I figured out was every time I read a book, if there was a lesson in it, I wanted to teach someone as soon as possible. So I'd make a video or I'd give a speech, and it would help me codify these ideas. And then finally, once the crash happened in 2020, the Corona crash, once that happened, I realized I need to turn this into a business. And once I did, and once I started having more people invest more time and resources into my program, their results got better. Again, somebody taking my advice, they're not invested, so they don't really care. They'll listen for a second, but they won't really listen. People join my program, and because they've invested resources into taking my program, now when I say you need to listen to this book at 1.4 speed, move it up to 1.7 so that you can get more out of it, and then take notes on every one of these chapters, now they actually do it because they've invested in what I've asked them to do. And it's just been so magnificent how different it is. But yeah, no, money has never been the main driver for this.
Russell Brunson, I think it was, that says when people pay, they pay attention. And I noticed this. I used to give away this training. I used to give away this training on sales that for clients, I would just like throw it in with like doing a project for them or a website or whatever we were doing. And then I got a coaching client. He was like one of my first. And I was like, I was having to pay two grand a month. And I gave him this training. He was now paying. And he got results unlike anyone that had ever been given that course before, because he paid attention to it. And that changed my perception forever about trying to benefit people by giving them free stuff. And I was just at that Taylor Welch event. We were both
I was about
together.
to say that. So 3 weeks ago, you and I were at a Taylor Welch event, and he said, I hate giving away stuff for free because free trains your audience to get something for nothing. So we took our free course, and now we're charging $10 for it. It's just $10, but it's like it's going to separate the wheat from the chaff. Right. The sound from the noise.
He said, and I remember this, he was like, free is stupid. And I was like, oh man, I'm being stupid. So
we're changing. Yeah. And I'm creating a low ticket offer for a bunch of my stuff. Yeah. Because of what I was saying. And I'm not going to charge a bunch, but like $3, we're going to I'm going to make an ebook, and I'm charging $3 for it. And then I'm going to make the first 4 steps of MOA. I'm going to charge $10 for it. That's all. But the reason why I'm going to do it is because you need to invest internally. There's the investment, there's the actual money that transfers from one fund, from one place to another. But then there's the actual an internal investment that you have. Read about like the Florence Nightingale effect, how like nurses fall in love with their patients as they continue to care for them. Is you invest in an idea, you become more invested in the idea, additionally more invested. And so that's something that's a really, really important thing. So people who pay attention. That's absolutely correct. Yeah. So yeah, man, that's been something that's been really helpful for me, but just kind of getting out of your own way and thinking that you know better, or just holding on to what you think is moral or authentic, as opposed to being like you don't do things because they don't feel authentic. And they don't feel organic, and not recognizing that everyone you think is organic is they got their lights set up, they're wearing makeup, they've got a fill light, they've got a director over here, they've got an editor, they're using AI software, but you think to you it's organic, but it's not organic. It really isn't. The other thing I'm going to tell you guys, if you listen to huge content creators like Alex Hormozy, or if you listen to like David Goggins, they will say things and the things will be viral because they said it. Like Alex Hormozy will say a thing and people will quote him because he's Alex Hormozy. None of you are at that. None of you listening to this are at that spot. You need to say something that is actually transgressive. You're going to need to say something that actually moves the needle, or no one's going to care. If you, and trust me, listen to Tony Robbins. If he makes a tweet, he goes, yeah, be bold, trust yourself, go out and take action. Every day, if you fall down, just get back up. Like 400,000 likes. Any one of you say some shit like that. Be bold, take chances, do what's best in your life.
Yeah, they're like, who are you?
Fall down, get up. You will not get a single like on Twitter. No one will care, because you're not famous enough to where the message is viral because you're famous. Their message is, no offense, their message is useless. It doesn't it doesn't help you at all. These messages are so vague, they do nothing for you. But you have to do something that is a bit more transgressive, or no one's going to care. And I love Gary Vaynerchuk. I really do. But he gives this advice of like you just being authentic all the time and just always doing what you love. And I'm just thinking about Wayne Huizinga, the guy who owns Waste Management. The guy made $1 billion from cleaning up diapers and porta potties. Do you think Wayne Huizinga woke up every morning being like, you know what my dream is? To clean up porta potties. No, you make millions of dollars from solving other people's problems, not by doing what you love. Sorry to break your spirit, and sorry to be the bearer of bad news. Sorry to say the quiet part loud. Sorry if this comes off as offensive. It is the truth. And by the way, you want to know another example of that? Property management. Property management. None of you woke up this morning like, you know what? I just want that shitty drug addict, fucking college burnout tenant who just makes my entire unit smell like a fucking hookah lounge. I can't wait to deal with that guy. None of you said that this morning. None of you did. This was none of your dreams, but you did dream of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, nobody woke up. Nobody woke up as a kid and said, "Mom, Dad, you know what I want to be when I grow up? I want to be a property manager."
Yes. No one said that. And yet you're doing it, and many of you are really happy, and it's putting food on your table, and you're learning new ways to make money, and it's becoming an adventure, and you're becoming super relevant and super competent in this area, and it was never your dream, but you're solving a problem, and that's how you're going to get rich, not by following your fucking passion.
Okay. That's a pretty
Have I sufficiently offended a happier audience?
No, I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so. I think my audience, I think they know, like, most property management companies suck. If I have a room full of property managers and I say, by show of hands, how many of you, all of your competitors suck? Everybody's hand goes up every time I have a room of property managers, but not yours. I usually joke at them, but not yours.
Here's another one. Do this one. Yeah. Do this one. How many of you guys think that the media fools people and manipulates people? All of them will raise their hand. How many of you guys are manipulated by the media? And none of them raise their hand.
I know.
Dude, I love it. There's another friend of mine. It's, I asked a group of women, how many of you guys have dated a narcissist? They all raised their hand. And I was like, well, 4% of the population are narcissists. And then the other one I asked is like, how many of you think that? I'll have like 10 girls on my panel, and I'll be like, ladies, how many of you think that your friends are bigger sluts than you? And all of them would raise their hand.
Whoa,
and I was like, if your friends were here, they would say the same shit about you. Yeah, it's really funny. It's this cognitive bias that individuals have.
Yeah. So I think, property managers listening, in the beginning, it's not fun. It's not a fun business. But if they get to the point where they recognize that they can create the business around themselves instead of trying to build the business around the business. This is the big mistake most people make building any business. Initially, they build the business around the business, and they end up more and more miserable in it until they finally have a breakthrough in their business, in their journey of being an entrepreneur, that they figure out, this is not what I had wanted from the beginning. And I called the 4 reasons for starting a business. They want fulfillment, they want freedom, they want contribution, and they want support. And this is why we start businesses. They think it's to get money, but really they want these 4 things that a business and money could create for them if they do it the right way. But we all tend to build businesses initially the wrong way. We have less freedom, less fulfillment, less of a sense that we're making a difference, contribution, and less feeling like we're less supported, feeling more like we're like, why won't my team think for themselves, kind of a question. And we end up in a place that is usually the least profitable the business has ever been on a per client basis, and frustrated until we turn it around and we start to build the business around ourselves. And so property managers and every business owner need to be selfish enough that they recognize the business cannot be healthy, their team cannot be healthy unless they build the business around them getting more of what they want out of the business. And this is where they start to change how they build their team, how they build what they're doing, and they stop trying to pretend to be this wrong person and then build a team around it. You cannot build the right team around the wrong person. And so property management can be a really shitty business to be in, or it can be a really systemizable, repeatable process, residual income cousin of real estate that they can spend their days just doing the few things they enjoy doing and offload everything else if they do it the right way, which is, what we focus on with our clients. And so, and I would assume that goes for anyone in any business. There's a way that you could show up in that business and just do the pieces that you love eventually. If you're willing to, kind of like you were describing, eat shit and do the hard things in the beginning to get there with that goal in mind.
I love it, man. Definitely. I mean, it's the hard part. It's like people they've been sold this idea that they deserve success. Success it'll be something where you follow your passion, and it's going to be fair. It's going to be fair because you're going to work hard and you're just going to make money just because you worked hard. That's what they think it is. And then later on, they start special. This windy road. There's different parts where it's like, this doesn't feel authentic. Guys, this is another thing really important. This is more self-help advice than it is for specifically for business. If you aren't good at a thing, and I'm elite at that thing, whatever it is, okay? I'm a really good free throw shooter, for instance. I'm an elite level free throw shooter. It just happened to be some weird thing that I do every day when I work out. If I go and I were to teach you how to shoot free throws, and I teach you to keep your elbow in, I want your right foot slightly in front of your left foot. I need you to drop your weight a little bit. Only your fingers touch the ball. Your palm does not touch the ball. Ball comes over your index finger, and your humerus is pointing towards there. The first time I get you to do it, it's going to feel awkward. It's going to feel wrong. It's going to feel inauthentic. But you've been doing the wrong thing authentically. I need you to do the right thing inauthentically. Whenever I give you a piece of advice that leads to success and you don't have success, it will never feel authentic, ever. Some of you who watch this podcast, you've been getting advice and it doesn't feel authentic because it works. That's why it doesn't feel authentic. You need to let go of this romantic notion of your authenticity. This is social media. All of it is fake. All of it is fake. If any of it is real or authentic, it's only real and authentic because I allowed you to see it. That's the only reason. Let go of your notion of authenticity and romantic beliefs. Let go of it. It's imaginary. You want to be exciting and bombastic. You're going to have to be ostentatious because no one cares about you. No one is watching you. You don't mean anything to anyone other than your 4 closest friends and maybe your mom. No one cares. You are the tree falling in the forest and no one is there to hear it. And so many of you are not. I have 400 followers on Instagram. Bro, you don't have 10 real followers on Instagram. You don't. Sorry, you don't. And that's the thing. If you understand how the Instagram algorithm works, if you have 400 followers on Instagram, it's going to show your content to 4 people, 1%. That's how it works.
So to be clear, what you're not saying is that people should be lying or unethical.
No lying, no unethical. And don't even exaggerate. Like, well, authenticity. Don't even exaggerate.
Yeah.
It's like you ever seen the story about the blind people touching the elephant? One guy comes and one blind person touches the trunk and said, oh, this thing is like a snake. Another one touches the tail and is like, oh, this thing is almost like a willow tree or a tree branch. One of them touches the leg and it's like, oh, this thing's like a tree. There's 3 blind people touching the elephant. They're all correct, but they do not adequately describe the elephant in total. And my point is, just take the parts of your life and just show the cool parts. You're just going to have to show the cool parts. Again, most of you, when you look at your car, you have a cover over there's a fiberglass cover over the top of your engine. But you know, your engine might actually run more efficiently if you didn't have that thing in there. You'd be able to take in more air, right? But why do you do that? Why is it? You do it because this is the part that you're trying to hide. The world is about hiding certain parts and showing more beautiful parts. There's a beautiful place in the woods. You're out there in a grove and there's trees, and you show it in a photograph and you take pictures with your friends and you have a picnic and it's beautiful. You don't show videos of cows taking a poop. You don't do that, because even though both things are natural and both things happen, one of them is pretty and nice. Nobody is out there trying to, like, let's say, what's an ugly animal? I'm trying to think of no one's like, let's save the aardvarks. No one does that, but everyone's trying to save the cats. Notice that?
Yeah.
You notice we pick and choose what we find to be more appealing as Homo sapiens. And so when you understand this concept and understand that this whole belief is fueled through evolution, then you're like, okay, let me pick and choose the concepts that my audience are going to find to be more digestible or more exciting to keep their attention. And as I do that, I'm going to grow as a content creator. And one of the weirdest things that is ever going to happen to you guys is, as a content creator, you're only going to have 10,000 people following you on Instagram and maybe 1,000 subs on YouTube. You're going to do that for a while, and the first time someone comes up to you, and you can tell that they're actually visibly nervous to meet you because they've been watching all your stuff.
Yeah.
And that guy is going to convert. And not only is he going to convert, when he converts, he's going to get more out of your content than anyone else because he's paying attention.
Yeah.
And that's the gift I give you, is just the ability to do that.
Yeah, I love it. It reminds me of, I saw a video on probably, I don't know, Reels, TikTok, but it was talking about how all these influencers go to the Bahamas. Bahamas look super beautiful or whatever, but nobody reveals that people are getting bitten by sand fleas and getting infections. Yeah.
Those, you know, those pigs in Exuma, you know, those pigs, nobody shows that those pigs have like these horrible sunburns, or like the pigs shouldn't even be out there, or nobody even shows the part that everyone is just like it's kind of abuse. It's kind of animal abuse. Nobody ever, they always just show the pigs out there swimming,
walking, living, cooking bacon.
Yeah, it's just crazy, bro. It's like, we never see that. Like, guys, I want you to understand, most of you live on a planet right now where half the population of this earth lives on less than $5 a day. There are people literally right now living in Managua, living in a trash dump, like thousands of people that literally live in a trash dump. Look it up right now before, like, you have no idea not only how fortunate you are, but how fortunate you could be by using social media to scale your business and to scale your network. And so many people in this world currently don't have that ability, and no one on the planet had that ability before like 1992, right? When we had dial-up internet. No one had that ability. You are so unbelievably fortunate for the place that you live in life. You need to take advantage of it.
Michael, I appreciate you coming and hanging out with me here on the Door Grow Show. For those that are wanting to get, you know, maybe they're guy, maybe they're interested in Men of Action, or they want to follow you on social media and hear more of your passionate conversation, how can they get in touch with you?
Just go to Michael Sartain on Instagram. It's probably the easiest place to get a hold of me. If you guys are interested in the program specifically, you can go to moamentoring.com, Men of Action, moamentoring.com, or you can go to School. You guys know School. That's that new platform that Alex Hormozi just bought. It's skool.com/Men of Action free. There's a hyphen in between each word. So it's men-of-action-free. You guys can join our free school group there. And it's got all kinds of information. It's got our calendar. It's got Instagram testimonials. It's got video testimonials. It's got the book list. And it's got the required podcasts that we have for all of our clients that are on there. So if you guys want to go check that out, just go to school.com/men-of-action-free.
This has been awesome, Michael. I think you and I could have an ADHD conversation for like 5 hours straight.
Yes.
And just go down a million rabbit holes. But I appreciate you coming and hanging out with me on the show. Thanks so much.
All right, man. Hey, good to talk to you. Talk to you soon, Jason.
All right. We'll let you go. All right.
Take care.
So for those of you that are wanting to grow and scale your property management business, and you are wanting to figure out how to get to the next level, you've been stuck for a while, check us out at doorgrow.com. We would love to have a conversation, see if it might be a fit, see if we can help you get to the next level, and finally start getting the results that you're wanting in your business, and finally start feeling like you're making progress significantly, scaling your business and having success. And until next time, to our mutual growth. Bye, everyone.